Today's question comes from Hannah in Illinois. She says, I've always struggled with emotional spending to fill a void in my life in stressful situations. When my husband and I started dating, he was debt-free, which prompted me to want to get out of debt. I was able to pay off $4,000 before we got married, and then my husband paid off the rest of my $5,000 debt. We were debt-free for 10 months until the pandemic hit and the stress spiraled into spending on my credit cards. I thought I would be able to pay them off, but I kept spending and the shame of the debt overwhelmed me, so I kept it a secret. My husband was angry when he finally had a discussion about my debt, and I closed my accounts. How do I handle the shame of past mistakes and avoid emotional spending? I want to do better in our finances and work together, but my husband doesn't believe I am willing to change. Man, Dave, there's a lot here. First, I don't know that her husband's angry about the spending as much as the dishonesty and the deceit and the, as we call it around here, financial infidelity here. I'm sure he was upset about the spending, but more the violation of trust. So the way I've heard guilt and shame framed is guilt is when you say, I've done something that violates my moral boundaries. Shame is when you say, I am, like, not I cheated. I should feel guilty about cheating on a test. I'm a cheater. I carry that shame around with me. And so when anyone says, how do I get rid of my shame? I think I say, I'm going to pull myself away from these set of behaviors, and I'm going to say, I'm going to stop doing these things. Your husband doesn't believe you're willing to change because I don't see here that you're willing to change. I hear, Dave, in this language, this over and over. I'm just out of control with this thing. It controls me. Nothing I can do about it. And I
don't have a choice in this. It owns me.
I stone cold disagree with that.
Yeah, if you label yourself, which is shaming,
you're right.
I'm an emotional spender, then you're no longer held accountable for the fact that you're just not being an adult.
That's right. Like I'm 6'2", I have to bend over to get into a 4-foot, fence. Let's say. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a fact. I'm 6'2". She is not an emotional spender, 6'2", right? Mm-hmm. She has labeled herself an emotional spender,
right?
And that's how she has chosen to cope with things in the past.
Well, and it lets you off the hook for the pain of the responsibility to change.
That's right.
If you label yourself, well, I've got this disease.
I've got a problem, and
I've got this disease, and so I'm stuck.
Can't help it.
I'm just the way I am.
So, Hannah, you know what you do? You get rid of all of your cards. You get rid of all of your internet access. I mean, how far do you want to go to keep your marriage? How far do you want to go to stop this kind of behavior? Mm-hmm. Do you want to spend some time with a counselor and get to the root of why you feel the need to do this? I mean, you could go to the ends of the earth to fix some of this behavior.
You do some emotional spending, and you've had some immaturity and some weakness that has led you to that. You are not defined as an emotional spender. And that's what you've got to change.
The way you just said that is so empowering. I don't know how the culture got sideways in this.
Yeah.
But because
we want to be victims instead of victors.
But do you realize how, like, what you just said is so much more empowering than, oh, honey, you've got an emotional spending problem, disorder. It's not even a disorder, but
well, that's what she wants to say.
Versus, you made some bad choices.
I struggled with emotional spending to fill an emotional void.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've struggled with chocolate chip cookies to fill an emotional void too, but I'm not one.
Yeah. My tendency is I have the same one. My tendency is to emotionally eat. So I've got to set up some.
You're not a gummy bear.
Oh, God almighty. I can get after some gummy candy. But so here's the thing. I have to set up a lot of boundaries in my life. I ask people in this building to hold me accountable to that.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing. When you go through something like that is not a fact, instead it's a perception.
Right.
Then what you have to do is you have to change your mindset about it. And so I think there's a whole lot of hope for her, and what her husband is afraid of, and it's coming out as anger, is that she's going to stay in this hole because she believes she is this hole.
And she hasn't gotten to the root of, I lied to my husband.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, I just straight up, as an adult who legally can do stupid things, did some stupid things.
Right. Call it out.
Yeah, just say, I did. When I went bankrupt, you know why I went bankrupt? Because I borrowed too stinking much money. And because I was an idiot. I got a PhD in DUMB, and I signed up for a bunch of short-term notes. The stupid bankers took my head off. Well, I put my head on the block. That's how they took it off. You don't stick your head on the block, you don't want to get it taken off.
Right.
So American Express calls my house now. It's a wrong number. I mean, we don't deal with these people anymore because I'm not going to ever be back. So you have to have a moment in time where you say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Never again.
Right.
Never again. That is not who I am. I don't act this way. And you start, and it's not some kind of false New Age affirmation or something, but you never again label yourself as an emotional spender. You label yourself as someone who used to spend emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that a couple times in my past. I don't do that anymore.
No, James Clear would say label it the opposite. I'm somebody who's a steward of my finances.
Yeah.
And I'm going to live
really
that.
good with money now.
That's right.
And I'm really good at staying out of debt and building wealth.
So what are the practices I'm going to put in my
life?
life?
I'm a guy that went bankrupt.
That's right. And Dave, there are times when I will not go into a gas station because you know what's in gas stations?
Gummy bears.
Oh my gosh, gummy candies. If I haven't slept, if I'm tired, if I'm in a bad mood, I won't go in because I know that when I go in there,
you can't go in a bar if you're drunk.
That's right. That's right.
Go sit down at the bar where everybody else is ordering a double if you're drunk and go, well, I used to drink a lot, but now put myself in a situation here where I'm going to drink again.
Don't put yourself in a
You
situation.
can't do that if you've got a history of that, and if you've got a history of this. And I had a history of misbehavior with money, but it was somewhat greed-driven, somewhat emotional maturity-driven, somewhat identity-driven. There's a lot of things that drove it, but all of those things are things I chose.
Right.
And I can just decide to unchoose them.
Right.
And go, and we had a good call the other day, you and I did, about a lady said, how do I break my poverty mentality?
Mm.
And it's the same thing, only I think we're probably a little bit more sympathetic for that than I am with this one.
Because you grew up with a model. And
she grew up with a thing, and she'd never seen anything else. Yeah. And she hasn't labeled herself with that. She said, how do I not be that?
That's right, yeah.
And that's a much better question than how do I work? How do I do better in our finances? You don't. You decide you're better.
Yeah.
And then you work on your finances with your husband, and you may need to, for a period of time, you need to get out all the credit cards and chop them up, and you may need to have a real clear weekly discussion with your husband about where all the money in the house
Carry
is.
cash with you.
So that he rebuilds trust over time because you lied to him.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everybody makes mistakes like you made, Hannah. We're not shaming you for doing that. But for God's sakes, don't label yourself.
I'm trying to unshame you. I'm trying to give you your power.
I'll tell you another one I get all the time is, I'm not good with math.
Yeah.
So I can't do money.
Right.
Well, by God, people can do all kinds of sixth grade math. And sixth grade math's what it takes to be good with money. This is the Ramsey Show.